Have you ever felt like there's a version of your life that already exists somewhere in the field of possibility, a reality where you're living fully, where joy flows effortlessly, where you're aligned with your purpose, and abundance comes naturally? Maybe you've even glimpsed it in dreams, in flashes of intuition, in the deep silence between thoughts. That version of your life is not a fantasy. It's a frequency. And the key to accessing it lies in one powerful truth. Everything in the universe is energy. And all energy vibrates at a specific frequency, including you. The thoughts you think, the emotions you feel, the beliefs you hold, all emit a frequency that interacts with the quantum field. And that field is infinite. It's not bound by time or space. It's a web of potential outcomes, a cosmic menu of parallel realities, all coexisting and waiting for you to tune into them. The concept of quantum frequency is not just science. It's a spiritual technology. It's the missing link between your inner world and the life you experience on the outside. And most people are unconsciously tuned to frequencies of fear, doubt, scarcity, and survival. And so their lives reflect that static, that dissonance. But when you shift your internal vibration, everything around you begins to shift as well. This is not about positive thinking. It's about frequency alignment. It's about becoming an energetic match to the reality you desire. The life you've been imagining already exists. It's already vibrating at a higher frequency. The question is, are you willing to rise to meet it? Imagine you're a radio trying to pick up a station. The music is already playing. But unless you're tuned to the right frequency, all you get is noise and frustration. Your desires are that music, they are real, they're broadcasting from a future self that is already living them. But you must tune yourself to that station, not by chasing, not by forcing, but by becoming the version of you who already lives there. This is the art of quantum alignment. It's not magic. It's mechanics. The mechanics of energy, thought, emotion, and embodiment. Everything you are is signaling to the universe what to mirror back to you. So if you live in the frequency of lack, the field will reflect lack. If you shift into the frequency of sufficiency, gratitude, love, trust, then life begins to reflect those frequencies back to you. Not instantly, not always predictably, but always consistently. Because the universe is not judging, it is responding, it is reflecting, it is matching you. And here's where it gets even more powerful. The quantum field does not speak in words. It speaks in vibration. And your dominant vibration is determined not by what you say, but by what you feel, what you expect, what you embody. When you wake up in the morning and immediately think about stress, your body goes into a survival state. And that becomes your frequency. But when you begin the day by feeling into the reality you want to live, breathing as if it's already here, choosing thoughts and emotions that match that reality, you begin to tune into it. And over time, with enough consistency, that reality begins to tune into you. This is the foundation of living intentionally with quantum awareness. It's not about waiting for signs. It's about becoming the sign. It's not about manifesting from lack. It's about embodying from truth. It's about realizing that the future is not ahead of you. It's within you, waiting to be activated. And the moment you shift your internal state, that activation begins. You are no longer a victim of circumstance. You become a creator of alignment. And this is not about denial. It's not about pretending you're happy when you're not. It's about mastering the art of frequency precision. It's about recognizing when your energy has dipped and gently tuning it back with compassion and clarity. Not with force, but with choice. Because your power lies in choosing again and again and again. And this repetition becomes embodiment. And embodiment becomes magnetism. And magnetism draws your imagined life into form, not because you're special, but because you're resonant. And resonance is the quantum key to reality transformation. You don't attract what you want. You attract what you are. And you are always becoming. So the question is, who are you becoming today? And does that version align with the life you've been imagining? The life you've been imagining is not something you earn, it's something you align with. It's not a reward, it's a reflection. And the more clearly you understand this, the more empowered you become to shift your reality from the inside out. Quantum frequency is not about trying harder, it's about tuning deeper. It's about mastering your own energy field and becoming deliberate with every thought, every feeling, every action you take. And the beauty is, you don't need to be perfect, you just need to be present. Because presence is the highest frequency of all. It's the space where past and future dissolve, where fear and doubt lose their grip, where the signal becomes clear and you start to receive the guidance, the synchronicities, the nudges from the field. The field is alive, it's conscious, it responds to coherence. And coherence happens when your heart, mind, and body are in harmony, when you're no longer fragmented, when your desires and your beliefs are aligned, and your nervous system is not sabotaging what your soul knows is possible. When your entire being becomes a yes, then the field becomes a mirror of that yes, and reality begins to rearrange in your favor. Not because you manipulated it, but because you resonated with it. Think of a tuning fork. When struck, it causes other forks of the same frequency to vibrate. You are the tuning fork, your energy causes your reality to vibrate in harmony or in resistance, depending on your frequency. And every moment, you have the opportunity to retune, to recalibrate. And that recalibration often comes through slowing down, not speeding up, through deep listening, not loud forcing. It comes through trust, and trust is the most magnetic state you can be in. Trust says, I don't need to chase because I am already becoming, I don't need to grasp because I am already aligned, I don't need to wait because the moment is already here. And when you live from that frequency, miracles become normal. Because you're no longer chasing outcomes, you're living in resonance with them. You're no longer asking for proof, you're being the proof. You're no longer wondering if you're worthy, you're embodying the worth. And that embodiment changes the way you walk, the way you speak, the way you relate, the way you create. And people will feel it, they won't know what changed, but they'll feel the shift in your presence. Because energy speaks before words, and your frequency enters the room before you do. And the more you live in coherence, the more your life becomes a reflection of that inner state. Relationships evolve, opportunities arise, synchronicities unfold. Not because you're hustling, but because you're harmonizing, you're living in flow with the quantum field. And that flow is intelligent, it knows where to take you, it knows how to deliver what's meant for you. But it needs your participation, your clarity, your receptivity. You are not a passive observer, you are a co-creator. And your frequency is your contribution to the unfolding of your highest reality. So ask yourself, what am I broadcasting today? Am I tuned to fear or to faith? Am I aligned with possibility or trapped in the past? Am I living from reaction or from intention? Because every single frequency you emit is creating a ripple, and those ripples shape the form of your experience. Not always instantly, but always eventually. And the delay is not punishment, it's calibration, it's refinement, it's alignment. And if you can meet the delay with trust, you amplify your signal. If you can hold the vision without needing proof, you accelerate its arrival. Because the field responds to consistency and clarity. It doesn't respond to force, it responds to coherence. And coherence comes from deep inner alignment, not surface positivity, but grounded embodiment. The truth you live, not just the words you speak. And when your truth and your energy become one, your life begins to mirror that integrity with precision. This is the secret of quantum living, not effort, but alignment, not control, but resonance, not striving, but allowing. And the more you trust, the more you receive. Because receiving is a frequency too, and it begins with believing you're already connected, already supported, already enough. Most people block the life they've been imagining, not because they don't deserve it, but because they don't believe it's available to them. They live in the frequency of doubt, and doubt collapses the signal. It sends static into the field, and the field reflects that static back, in the form of mixed results, confusion, stagnation. But when you replace doubt with devotion, when you begin to choose, again and again, the frequency of trust, something shifts, not just in your mind, but in your reality. The people you meet change, the conversations evolve, the opportunities become more aligned, because your frequency has become more coherent. And coherence is power, not the loud kind, not the forceful kind, but the steady, radiant kind, the kind that doesn't have to prove anything, because it already is. And that kind of energy is irresistible. It draws in not by pulling but by glowing, because the field recognizes truth and responds to it with symmetry. The life you've been imagining is a frequency of truth. It's not based in fantasy, it's based in alignment. It's the version of your life where your soul is fully expressed, where your energy is not drained by pretending, where your heart is not hidden by fear, and your actions are not controlled by lack. That life is not something you chase, it's something you allow. And allowing begins with releasing control, with letting go of the need to micromanage the how, and falling in love with the what, with the why, with the who you're becoming in the process. And yes, there will be moments of doubt, moments where the old frequency tries to pull you back into the familiar. But your awareness is your anchor, your breath is your bridge, your presence is your power. And the more you return to that, the faster the static dissolves, and clarity returns. Because clarity is not something you find, it's something you tune into. It's always been there, beyond the noise. And when you begin to live from that place, from that calm frequency of knowing, everything changes, not all at once, not always visibly, but deeply, profoundly, permanently. Because you're no longer reacting, you're responding from alignment, from embodiment, from resonance. And the more you do, the more your life becomes a mirror of that energy. And that energy is not fake positivity, it's authentic frequency. It's not pretending to feel good, it's practicing the truth until it feels natural. It's choosing thoughts that empower, not because you're avoiding pain, but because you're directing your power. Pain may still arise, challenges may still appear, but your relationship with them changes. You no longer see them as problems, you see them as feedback, as portals, as opportunities to retune. And in that shift, everything becomes purposeful, even the hard moments, even the silence, even the uncertainty. Because you understand now that the field is always listening, not to your words, but to your vibration. And vibration is shaped by what you practice, what you focus on, what you expect, and what you allow. So if you want to change your life, you must change your frequency. And to change your frequency, you must change your identity. Not by becoming someone else, but by becoming more of who you really are. Removing the layers of fear, shame, guilt, and conditioning that kept your light dim, and letting the real you rise. The version of you that knows they're connected, that trusts the unfolding, that lives in alignment with their highest vision. Because that vision is not a fantasy, it's a memory, a resonance from the future echoing into your now, calling you home. And your only job is to answer that call, not by chasing it, but by tuning into it, by feeling it in your body, seeing it in your mind, and choosing to live from it, moment by moment, breath by breath. And when you do, you collapse the distance between the imagined and the real. You become the bridge, the channel, the signal, and your life transforms, not because the world changed, but because your frequency did. And that's the greatest realization of all, that you don't manifest what you want, you manifest what you are. And who you are is a living, breathing frequency generator. Every thought sends a signal, every feeling amplifies it, every belief anchors it, and your body becomes the transmitter, sending that signal out into the quantum field. And the field responds with reflections, with people, and events, and situations that mirror your signal. So when you shift the signal, the mirror changes. And when you shift consistently, the mirror stabilizes, and your new reality becomes your normal. Not because you forced it, but because you lived it, because you walked it before it appeared, because you trusted it before it was proven. And that level of energetic leadership is what bends reality, it's what collapses timelines, it's what turns visions into experiences, not through pressure, but through precision, the precision of your presence, your focus, your energy. And that is a power you've always had, but maybe forgot, maybe you were taught to look outside for answers, to wait for permission, to hope for validation. But quantum living begins the moment you stop outsourcing your power and bring it all back to center, all back to now. And now is the only access point to the quantum field, not tomorrow, not someday, but now. Because now is where your vibration lives, and your vibration is what creates the bridge to everything your soul desires. The frequency of your imagined life is already present in the field, but you must become the receptor, the vessel, the channel through which it can flow. Not by being perfect, but by being tuned, by being consistent, by being real. And that means choosing again and again to embody the energy of the life you're calling in, even when there's no evidence, even when it's hard, even when you're tired. Because those moments are not tests, they are invitations, they are sacred chances to become unshakable, to build inner coherence so strong that the external has no choice but to align with it. And alignment doesn't mean comfort, it means clarity, it means congruence between your inner world and your outer expression. And when that congruence clicks, something opens, the field responds, the shift begins. And it may come as a whisper, not a roar, as a gentle unfolding, not a dramatic leap, but it comes. And the more you trust that, the more you let go of needing it to look a certain way, the more beauty you allow in. Because life is always speaking in frequencies, and the more you listen, the more you begin to hear the subtle guidance, the invisible nudges, the intuitive impulses that lead you exactly where you're meant to go. And you stop asking how, because the how becomes revealed through flow, through following the resonance. And resonance never lies, it always points you back to truth, back to your essence, back to your original signal, before the world told you who to be, and what to fear, and how to fit in. And the more you peel back those layers, the brighter your frequency becomes, and the clearer the path ahead feels. Because the path is not something you find, it's something you become. And every step you take in alignment with your highest frequency reveals more of it, until you look around and realize you're living the life you once only imagined. Not because you chased it, but because you tuned to it, you became the version of you who could hold it, who could live it, who could expand it. And now it's yours, not as a reward, but as a resonance. And now that you're resonating with the frequency of the life you imagined, your work becomes about maintaining that signal, not guarding it with fear, but honoring it with devotion. Because frequency is not something you hold once, it's something you live inside of, it breathes through your choices, it flows through your habits, it anchors through your rituals. And every moment becomes a micro-decision to return to alignment or to fall into old patterns. And you will slip sometimes, you will forget, you will get pulled back by old energies. But the difference now is that you know the way back, you've felt what resonance feels like, and your body remembers, your soul remembers. And the moment you choose to realign, the field responds, not with judgment, but with precision. Because the field does not punish, it reflects. And that reflection is not always immediate, it arrives in perfect time. Because the universe is not only intelligent, it is loving, and it withholds nothing that you are ready to receive. But readiness is not about deserving, it's about matching the frequency of the reality you are calling in. And that match begins within. It begins with truth, with presence, with integrity, with self-trust. And self-trust is the foundation of quantum manifestation. Because if you don't trust yourself, you won't hold the frequency long enough to let it bloom, you'll sabotage, you'll doubt, you'll settle. But when you cultivate real trust, not in outcomes, but in your ability to stay, in your ability to come back, in your willingness to keep choosing alignment, you become unstoppable. Not in the sense of force, but in the sense of flow. Nothing can stop a being who is living in resonance with their truth. Because they are no longer reactive, they are responsive, they are no longer proving, they are embodying, they are no longer waiting, they are receiving. And that level of energetic clarity changes everything. It changes the way you move through the world, it changes the way you interpret challenge, the way you hold space, the way you speak and serve and love and create. And people will be drawn to you, not because of what you have, but because of what you've become. And what you've become is a frequency holder, a lighthouse, a reminder of what's possible when we choose to live from alignment. And that is the true gift of quantum living, not just creating a beautiful life, but becoming a transmission of that beauty so others can remember who they are too. Because we are not separate, we are one field, one energy. And your shift becomes our shift, your alignment ripples into the collective. And that is how we change the world, not through force, but through frequency. One being at a time, choosing to rise, choosing to feel, choosing to remember. And when enough of us do, the field shifts, the planet shifts, the paradigm shifts. Because energy never lies, and truth always rises. And the truth is, you are already whole, already worthy, already enough. The life you've been imagining is not separate from you. It's speaking through you, it's pulling you closer, it's asking you to stop doubting and start embodying, to stop waiting and start living. And the moment you say yes, the moment you commit fully, the moment you declare with your whole being, I am ready, and I am aligned, that is the moment the quantum field opens and everything begins to unfold. Not because you forced it, but because you remembered you never needed to. You never needed to beg for the life you dreamed of, you only needed to become the version of you who lives it, you only needed to clear the static, remove the masks, soften the resistance, and step fully into the truth of your frequency. Because the moment you become that frequency, reality reorganizes, it cannot not respond to you. The laws of energy are exact, and they are universal. What you radiate is what you receive, not as punishment or reward, but as resonance. So if you're not living the life you imagined yet, don't ask what's wrong, ask what am I tuned to, what am I practicing, feeling, believing, expecting. Because those subtle energies, those unconscious agreements, shape the broadcast you're sending out, and your reality is listening every day, every hour, every breath. And the more you consciously calibrate, the more you become a match for the version of your life that's already waiting. And this version is not louder, it's clearer, it doesn't scream for your attention, it whispers with power, it invites, it doesn't demand, it guides, it doesn't control. And when you quiet the noise of fear and urgency and pressure, you can finally hear that signal. And when you hear it, you remember, and when you remember, you return, and the return is everything. It is the moment your identity clicks into alignment with your essence, and the gap between who you are and who you're becoming dissolves, and you step into a new timeline, not by leaping, but by locking in. And that lock is frequency, and frequency is not just an idea, it's a lived experience, it's the way you breathe when you're in peace, the way you speak when you're in power, the way you walk when you know who you are. And that knowing is magnetic, it bends time, it pulls resources, it attracts people and places and moments that feel like miracles. But they're not miracles, they're reflections, they're confirmations that your inner world has shifted and your outer world is catching up. And the more you trust that, the more you relax and receive and allow. And in that state of allowance, you move without forcing, you create without chasing, you live without pretending. And people will feel that, they will feel the depth of your coherence, the safety of your groundedness, the clarity of your field. And some will be activated, some will be triggered, some will be drawn closer, and some will fade. But all of it is perfect, all of it is alignment doing its work, organizing your reality around the version of you you've chosen to become. And every day is a new chance to choose again, to refine, to realign, to expand even deeper. And that expansion is infinite, because frequency has no limit, consciousness has no ceiling, and your evolution is eternal. So let go of the finish line, let go of the pressure to arrive, and fall in love with the becoming, fall in love with the presence, fall in love with the moment. Because this moment is the portal, the now is the entry point into the reality you've imagined. And the more you honor it, the more you feel it, the more you embody it, the more your life transforms. Not in theory, but in reality. Because this is not about imagining anymore, this is about living, this is about integrating, this is about showing up as the version of you who doesn't talk about alignment, who lives it, who breathes it, who is it. And when you become that version, your life will reflect it without fail, not because you're lucky, but because you're resonant, and resonance always attracts what matches its song. And now that you are living in resonance, now that you are tuned to the frequency of your highest self, your only work is to remain in relationship with that frequency, not with fear of losing it, but with reverence for holding it, with joy in cultivating it, with love in expanding it. Because your frequency is sacred, it is your signature, your offering, your compass, and every time you honor it, you strengthen it, and every time you return to it after forgetting, you prove your devotion. And devotion is what keeps your signal clear, not perfection, not control, not performance, but honest, embodied, consistent devotion to the life that is already yours, and the self that is already whole, and the path that is already unfolding. And when you live from that space, you become unstoppable not because you never fall, but because you always rise, not because you know everything, but because you trust what you feel, not because you've mastered it all, but because you've surrendered to the intelligence that moves through you. And that surrender is strength, that trust is precision, that embodiment is leadership. And that leadership is not about having followers, it's about being an example, an anchor, a beacon of what is possible when one person chooses to live in resonance. And that choice changes lives, that choice ripples across timelines, that choice awakens others to their own signal and their own power. And that is the quantum effect, the exponential shift that happens when enough of us remember who we are, not as a concept, but as a vibration. And when you vibrate from truth, when you vibrate from alignment, your presence heals, your presence inspires, your presence activates. And you begin to realize that the life you've been imagining is not just a destination, it is a mirror, and you've been the creator the whole time, not from force, not from will, but from frequency. And now that you know that, you can never go back, you can never pretend you don't know the way. Because the way is within you, and it always has been, it's in your body, your breath, your choice, your energy, your return. And every time you return, you land deeper, and every time you land, you radiate clearer, and every time you radiate clearer, the field responds faster, and the timeline accelerates, and the life you once imagined becomes the life you now live. And the self you once dreamed of becomes the self you now are, and the frequency you once reached for becomes the baseline from which you expand even more. And that expansion never ends, because consciousness is infinite, because your soul is eternal, because your truth is boundless, and your frequency is free. So live it, speak it, embody it, share it, become it again and again. Because the life you've been imagining was never far away, it was always waiting for you to tune in, to say yes, to step in, and now you have, and this is only the beginning.